All right, this is Matt Mrozik, and this will be work in progress number 1 on this quarter scale Hulk. Anyone who's in the community knows this Hulk apparently. I had no clue what this was or who this was by till about 3 months ago when it showed up at my house weighing a crap load. So as you probably know, I'm working on a Sosa Spidey. You can see him back there hanging out next to the mechs I'm working on. This paint up is my paint. Sosa Spidey is my payment for doing this guy. So I actually started this a couple months ago because he was on my floor in pieces and I kept kicking him and stubbing my toe. And anyone who owns this kit knows he's massive and heavy as all get out. It's crazy. So as you all know, this is sculpted by Andy, I'm going to probably butcher his name, Bergholtz. I'm going to say that wrong, sorry, Andy. And commissioned by Maddox, who's the producer. Let's see, I just saw a kit. Was it a kit or a pre-paint that was on sale for $4,000? So he's expensive. And little did I know, you get a little one too, which is kind of cool. So this paint up is for Sonu. Him and Leo are kind of like my, have been breaking me into this whole statue thing, and Leo was really my first contact in doing all this stuff. So he hooked me up with Sonu and we made the deal, you know, I'll paint this and I get a Sosa Spidey. So pretty good deal in my opinion. So like I said, I already started this a few months ago because I literally had to get him off the ground on the shelf. John Allred just did one, a gray version. He didn't, you know, John's awesome. He did an amazing job. So the trick with this, if you haven't done it or haven't seen it, is that he comes with cloth pants, okay? So mine are purple. I've seen blue pants. So I've seen other color pants. This came with purple. I don't know if that was a choice or whatever, but it's real cloth pants and they're Velcro. So the problem is you can't put the pants on once the kit's together. So what you have to do, and this is what I've already done, is you have to pin both legs at least one in order to put. So what I've done so far, I'm just going to kind of hold him because this guy's solid resin. As you can see, pan up, is I have both arms pinned and I've already got my putty in there. Now it's looking a little rough. I got to go in there and smooth those out, obviously. To be honest, when I do putty work initially, it's very messy. But you know, I always clean it up and sand it smooth, so it always looks worse than it is. So I got the legs pinned, I got the arms pinned and epoxied. I'm going to put them down just for a second. And what I did, and I can show you on this one in particular, is I bought steel rod. This is 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. It's big. Where's my tape measure? I just had it. I think this is 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch steel rod. And this rod goes all the way down in here to the knee. So this goes into this leg 6 inches. It goes up in the torso 6 inches. So this has already been epoxied into place here. Then when I had the Hulk on the base, I had him kind of all, because you have to get him lined up properly to sit on the base correctly. While he was on there, I took in and I drilled holes in it. Sorry about that, my phone did something weird as usual. I went in an 1/4 inch drill bit, put rods in at an angle, because what I don't want to do, so I just put this in and epoxied it later, there's a good chance I could get some twist. The idea, my phone is screwy. I'll insert the rods in at an angle, which will prevent the leg from ever twisting in the future. So I've already done that to the other leg. So if I can show you. So this leg has been pinned with that 1/2 inch steel rod. And then you can't see it, but there are holes around the outskirts here going in at an angle with 1/4 inch rods to keep the leg from ever twisting. So between the epoxy and those rods and the putty, this guy's never coming apart. Same thing with the arms. You can see here where I started to putty the holes up where I had those rods going in at an angle. I've got to smooth out these seams a little bit, and I've got to texture the putty because the Hulk has a bunch of little, they're not really wrinkles, but he does have texture to his skin. So wherever I puttied, I have to go back and rescribe that. And that will be actually fairly simple, because what I'll do is once I sand all the primer down, or once I sand all the putty down, I'll primer them real good, and I can just go back and lightly score those lines back into the primer. And then also in the actual casting, where the seam was on the mold, they cleaned it up, but unfortunately they sanded it smooth and they got rid of all that skin detail. So I'll have to go in there and rescribe that, but that's not a big deal. What's really challenging about this kit is the sheer weight of it. It's insane. So you can see when I put them on the base, I have little tick marks here on the legs that show me how to line it up. So you see there on the on his right leg, we've got a little tick mark there. So when I go to put the those 1/4 inch rods in, those will line up, and those rods will line up perfectly. So what you have to do is you have to pin this leg, pin the arms, get those all sanded and blended. At least make this one leg removable. I've seen it where the guys made both legs removable, but I didn't want to have to deal with having to blend paint on 2 legs, because what's going to happen is once he gets all painted and approved by Sonu, I have to put the pants on, put this leg in, put those rods in from the angles, and epoxy it. Okay, so once I've done that, I've got to seam it. I've got to fill the seam in, otherwise you'll see that through the pants, which means I've got to sand that smooth, get it smooth. You know, these areas I don't have to worry about the skin texture because they'll be covered up by the pants. But what I have to do is, after it's all painted, get this leg pinned and epoxied, seam it, and then I have to blend the paint in, because I'm sure I'll mess up some of the paint around the knees and stuff. So that's the trick. That's really the tricky part, is really the sheer size and weight of this guy. He's insane. It took me about 2 days to get the legs and the arms pinned. Actually, you can see some of my metal rods sticking out here a little bit, which I'll grind down and fill in later. But and I was sore for a week after doing this. It was insane. My body looked like I had been in a car wreck. My legs were bruised. I was bleeding. I was scratched up. It's just a massive, massive piece. So I can't say that I'm a fan of the Hulk, but he's cool. I mean, it's just a great expression. As far as all the Hulks I've seen, if Hulk was a real person or a real character, this would probably be what he would look like in real life. As far as proportions go, his muscles aren't, you know, he's not a raging Hulk where his biceps and muscles and back muscles are just exploding everywhere. This, to me, it would be like what Hulk would look like in real life if he was an actual thing or an actual living character. I'm assuming that this little Hulk was kind of like the study sculpt, and then they based the big sculpt off of this, because you can see what they did is it's actually really cool. I'm not going to clean this up at all, but I'll paint them. You can see all the tool marks in the hands. You can see where the sculptor went in and added little bits of clay to kind of modify areas of it. So this looks like this was the working sculpt to get the proportions and all that done. And then once he was satisfied with that, he moved up and did the big sculpt. So that's a cool little piece. And it comes with a little lizard. I don't know what the significance of the lizard is, but you know, he'll go in there. So Sonu's been very specific on his color choices. He's sent me a lot of references. This is my first Hulk kit ever doing, so I anticipate there will be some painting and repainting to get it to the way Sonu wants. Again, this is a whole new subject matter for me, and you know, the great thing about paint is just paint. If you screw up, you can paint over it, or you can take it off and start over. So, and I've done that a few times on my personal pieces. I get something done, it's like, I don't like it, so I paint over it or I start over. So it'll be a very good learning experience for me. The building part really isn't that challenge. It's challenging just because of the size and the weight. I mean, if he was hollow casted and foam filled, it would be much easier to handle. But you know, for those guys that want to have a, you know, they complain about the weight of a statue, man, pound for pound, this guy's, you get your money's worth. But again, someone was selling, I want to say it was a kit for $4,000 a couple weeks ago, and I know the painted ones can go for more than that. I don't know how many are made. Someone can probably chime in and tell me how many were made. I'm assuming it's a very limited run, depending, especially with how much he cost. But for those of you who don't know how big he is, just had a tape measure. Anyway, I was saying about measuring him. My camera stopped again. Let's get a measurement on him. So height-wise, he's right at 22 inches. There seems to be a theme with these quarter scale kits or statues. They're all right around that 2 foot mark, 20 to 24 inches depending on their pose. But even the ones that are crouching, they seem to be right around that. Width-wise will be the widest part of the base. And 23 inches. And his depth is actually the width of the base also. The sculpt is pretty much confined to the width of the base. He doesn't like really extend past it. And that's right at about, I'm gonna say 15 inches. So yeah, cool piece. My next step on him is to sand down the putty, grind down the little metal rods that I didn't quite cut short enough before I put them in. That's not a big deal. Get those puttied. And then once all that's sanded and puttied, I'm going to give them a really good bath or a really good soak in purple power. That's what I use as a degreaser. I'll let them sit in that overnight just to remove any mold release because I have been handling quite a bit. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll throw a coat of primer on them. And that will show me any areas that I need to work on the putty work. It'll show me the areas where they went in and cleaned up the mold lines where I have to go back and rescribe this, you know, slight skin texture. Yeah, so I'm excited about doing this guy. He's going to be a challenge for me, I'm not going to lie. But, you know, I've got very specific directions as far as colors go, which is always helpful because unlike some people, Leo, someone who sent me a set of pictures and was very specific to that color, which is helpful when someone knows exactly what they want. It makes it easier because you know the direction you have to go, and you know they're not going to veer from that. So it makes it, because the way I work is I have to think about things for a while. So I may, you know, in a kit I may get to a certain point and put it down for a week or two while I think about, okay, what do I want to do next? What colors am I going to do next, or how am I going to achieve the colors I want? And then I'll pick it up and go from there. But cool piece, weighs a ton. He's got to weigh 50 pounds. I mean, he's just freaking heavy. But he commands a very, you know, special place in your collection if you have this guy. Just again, his hands are as big as mine. I mean, it's crazy. Look at that. I can shake his hand. They're actually bigger than my hands. So yeah, cool job. I mean, nice piece. If I was into Hulk, I'd want him. But I think my wife would kill me if I spent $4,000 on a kit. Now, if I could buy a kit and sell it for twice what I made or paid for it, yeah, that'd be a good deal. She probably wouldn't have a problem with that, but yeah. So there he is, Hulk by Matt X. Next step will, like I said, clean up the seams, give him a good bath, and then throw some primer on him and see any areas I need to work. I just did notice that I'm looking between his toes here that there's some like resin sludge down there. If you can see between his big toe and this toe, I'll go in and Dremel that out. I don't think that's supposed to be there. If it is, I'm going to take it out anyway. Same with this toe. There's a little bit of just not where the, you know, the space I think should go all the way up to his foot, and it doesn't on either of those, so I'll clean that out with the Dremel. That's no big deal. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.